Hi, this is going to be a Photoshop rendering of how to do fur. I'm not necessarily going to finish off this animal, but I am going to take the time to show you how I would do this in Photoshop, okay? And there will be times when I have to pause this video and change from a mouse to an electronic pen, okay? But I wanted to show you all, by me hiding Photoshop for a second, I wanted to show you all something that I have here, that I do a lot of animal portraits. And this is a close-up of one of the animals that I've done. And I'm still in process on this animal, and this is the actual rendering of it. So it's really the whole dog that I'm doing. And you can see that I'm getting very close to the items that I want. I still have a lot of my drawing in there, but you can see that I've pretty much finished the background, the rug, and the eye area. So again, I'll go up to the close-up, and you can see that the same techniques that I would do traditionally, I want to do digitally, okay? And it means layering, all right? It just means layering and working your way to your smallest, in this case, lightest values, okay? So I'm going to prepare this little puppy here for an illustration. Now, as soon as I double click this, it's going to change from a JPEG to a PSD file when I go to save it, but I never damage an original layer. And since I don't need the rest of this, and I'm going to resize this in a second right in front of you so that I get it to where Photoshop can really attack the resolution of it. So I'm going to hit the C key, and I'm going to crop this just for now to give myself a little bit smaller file size, like this. So I'm going to crop that little guy. Don't know if it's a male or female. That's okay though. And I'm going to go to image and image size. Okay, so right now I want you to see the pixelization that's in that fur. Okay, right there. Now I'm going to go to image and image size, and I'm going to change the width. First I want to say that I have resample on. Okay, so resample is clicked and it's on automatic, so that I'm only, when I adjust the width, the height moves or adjusts with it, but the resolution stays the same. So I'm going to put it at 10 inches, okay, but I'm going to raise the resolution to 300 ppi, which is pretty much normal for most product illustration. Okay, now watch what happens when I zoom in a second. Let me move this over. Remember this pixelization of this fur right here and the nose. So I'm going to click OK. Now I'm going to go back and I'm going to zoom into the same area. Now you can see how much clearer that is. All right, at least I'll get better resolution, and you can barely see any pixelization in it. That's why we do things at 300 ppi. There are some illustrations that I work at 600 ppi, and the illustration can get very, very large. But here's what I want to do. I'm going to work my way on the fur, but I'm going to show you how I gather and make selections. So I'm going to get the channel palette up. I need to have channels up. Oh, it's right in front of me. And I have the path palette up. So I need both of those at the moment just to be accessible to me, okay? So between layers and channels and paths, let's go. All right, so the very first thing I'm going to do is cut out the dog. Now, if I tried to take a pen and cut out around this fur, it would be really hard. So I'm going to show you a little trick, and I'm going to do everything in front of you. So if you have to fast forward, that's fine. But I'm going to click on the blue channel or the green channel or the red channel, the green channel, or the blue channel to see about the best contrast between the fur and the background. And I see that it's pretty much the blue channel. Okay, now I'm going to duplicate that so I can turn that into a mask. All right, so now let's just, I'll even call this mask, just so you know it's not just a copy of the blue channel. Now I'm going to hit Control or Command L to go to my levels. Now in a selection, you know that what's black in a selection or in a layer mask, what's black is not what the selection is. What is white or gray is what the selection is going to be. So right now I want to turn the background into dark. So I'm going to grab this dark if it lets me. Let me just go like this. Okay, now I can grab this side. And I'm going to grab the dark, and I'm going to find the most comfortable area that I don't lose a lot of fur on. And then I'm going to take the white, which is the right-hand side of the channels, and I'm going to move it over. Now that's pretty good, but now I have to do my little tricks to it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is go very close with my brush, and I don't normally have the flow at 100, but I have it at 100. Right-hand click, and not all the way hard, but mostly hard. Okay, so now you can see that I'm going to hold Option or Alt and sample the dark, and you can see that I'm going to take my time and I'm going to go around this animal right here, and I'm going to maintain some of that gorgeous fur that is on the edge. And then I'm going to use my artist license and thin down areas, and I'm going to go around this whole animal. Now I may pause this video after a few minutes just so I can come back and show you what I've actually done. So I'm toggling the bracket keys so that I can work my way away. See how I'm not hurting any of that fur? Well, this is going to take me a little bit, okay? But it's better than trying to draw it, right? It's better than trying to draw it with a pen. That would be ridiculous. So let me make the brush as big as possible, and it's easy if I work my way, or it's easier, I should say, if I work my way around this like I'm doing. So I'm going to leave that beautiful fur just like this on the edge, and then I'm going to fill in all of these areas in a very quick amount of time. So what I should do is come back and show you. Let me back off on this so you see how I've gone around that part of the animal. Okay, I will continue. You can just fast forward this if you want. I probably should just leave this on, and you can see that I'm being arbitrarily careful, but I'm still maintaining. I don't want to damage any of that really beautiful fur that is sticking out into the black area. Okay, so let's just keep on going, and let's just go around, and you can see that I'm eventually going to use a huge brush on that edge. So I am using what was given by Photoshop in the channel palette. I have to move that down a little bit. Now I may feather some of that in a little bit with a softer flow. Okay, that's a little harsh right there, but I'm okay with it. Whoops. Let me Z back, Control Z or Command Z back, and let's go around this here, and let's just get a reasonable definition of some of that fur that's around there. And you can see that I'm doing a fairly decent job, and I have a piece of advice for all of you. Don't just hold your mouse or your electronic pen down and keep on going. Let go every so often so you can, if you have to Control or Command Z back, you don't Command Z back all the way, you know, like you don't lose a whole lot of your stroke. So there, see, so I've come around this far. Let's just keep on going. I'm going to toggle my bracket keys to get bigger or smaller so my fingers are not moving away from the bracket keys. And you can see that I'm being somewhat careful, and it's a lot easier if you actually work your way from the object to the outside, because then you can't really make a huge mistake or a mess. So let's just keep on going. I'm doing pretty good. And it's not taking me a whole lot of time, but it is good to see all of this on screen as I'm talking to you, because I want to make my selection, my fur, I want to make it look as natural as possible in Photoshop. The worst thing that somebody can say after seeing a Photoshop rendering is, oh, that doesn't look real. And that would just not be right. So I will pause it and come back and show you the same kind of technique with a human figure in how I've done hair and skin on a human figure. And I'm going to use the same techniques that I did with the illustration of a human figure as I, whoops, that was not a good one, as I do with this animal portrait. So I really like what's going on there. So let's just keep on going. And I don't have to be 100% perfect on this. Oh, that's beautiful in there. I don't want to mess that up. I just want to come close to it. And let me just see. I'm going to, in a few minutes, I'm going to back off on that. And what I mean by backing off is I'm going to go to a softer brush and a lighter flow, just so I can get that to be pretty good. Okay, you can see that I don't want to damage any of that fur that is sticking out from the top of that beautiful little animal's head, at least not damage it too much. And now I'm almost to the point where I started. So that didn't take me too long, right? Now I'll show you a little technique before I go any farther with taking out that whole black there. Let me save the file, and it's going to save as a PSD file, like I said. And let me move over and show you here. If I were to take the flow down to about 10, yes, it's at 100 now. It's at 10. Now I'm going to right hand click and go all the way pretty much to soft. Okay, hit the return key. Now I'm painting in black, but because I'm painting in black at only a 10% flow, let me zoom in. Do you see how gentle I'm making the edge of that feather? Do you see how I'm actually helping? Let me just define that. I'm helping the selection. Look at this harshness right here. Now it's not harsh because I added a soft feather to that edge. What does a soft feather mean? Well, if black totally eliminates and white totally retains an image, correct, then levels of gray act as a feathering mechanism to your paint, and they give it a natural feel. See this? If I were to take the brush right here and really take my time, look at how I could feather that edge right there. Look at, see how I just feathered the edge of that? Look at how pretty that is now. Okay, let me feather the edge of this just a little bit just to get a more natural feel. Let me come across this and feather that. Let me make the brush bigger and feather this. And then I don't have to go any farther. I think I've done a good job there. Now, what I would really like to do is to show you what I do from this point on to fill in all the black. So I'm going to switch to the L key, which is the lasso, and I'm going to make a very quick lasso going halfway in that black area. So you can see what I'm doing here. Okay, I'm being kind of careful, and I'll make a mistake on purpose. I'll come across like this. That's a mistake I made on purpose, so I can show you on camera how to subtract and add to a lasso. So if I hold the Option or Alt key, okay, watch how I can subtract from this. So if I start out here, let me get my head correct here. If I start out here, inside here, do you see how that circle right there made that grow? So let me Control Z back and watch what I'm going to do here. I'm now going to take this and I'm actually going to come around like this. And do you see how I added to that selection? Okay, that was by holding Alt or Option. Now I'm too close to the fur here, so if I hold the Shift key, I'm going to add more selection to here. So I think I said that wrong. I actually subtracted the selection here, but I added the selection here. And I'm going to add more by holding the Shift key. See the plus sign that's right there? See it? If I come across from the inside and make a bigger circle right here, do you see how I just added to that selection? Now if I hold Alt or Option, do you see how I'm subtracting from that selection? Now, let me subtract from that selection right there. And I made a mistake, so I am going to Control Z back, and I'm going to add to that selection by holding the Shift key. There, that's perfect. Now, all I have to do to fill in that whole thing, and I really should save that selection. Where do you save a selection and where does that appear? If you save a selection, I'll just call it number 1. Do you see how now it's in the channel palette, but I really didn't want that selection right this second, so I'm going to trash it. Okay, I'm going to inverse this selection. So Command Shift I or Control Shift I. Now I'm going to hit Option Delete or Alt Backspace, and you see how I've just filled up the whole background. Okay, I like what I've done, but now I have to take the inside and turn it into white. So I'm going to duplicate it so that I don't have to mess up here. Now this selection isn't for the dog. This selection, it isn't to paint the fur. It's just to do an outer area of a fill for the fur. So don't be confused here, but I'm going to now take my brush, go up to 100%, but instead of painting black, I'm going to paint white. So now I'm going to hit the X key, and you can see what I'm doing here. Whoops, I have to go all the way to hard almost. I was way too soft with it. Now, I'm going to go close to the edge, just like this, but I'm not going to go to the edge yet. So I'm going to go just like this. You can see what I'm doing here, and I'm just trying to gather a selection. So when I use it as a fill, just bear with me here, okay? I'm going to soften that edge in a few seconds. I have to take away all the detail of this animal, and I'm going to do it very carefully, all right? Now, let me zoom in. Let me toggle the brush down, and now let's just click, and let's make the edge reasonable here. Remember, I'm trying to make a selection that would be nearly impossible to draw with a pen. That is the key. That is what I'm trying to do. Now I'm going as close as I can to there, knowing in a couple of seconds or minutes I am going to use my feathering technique to soften that edge and not make it look so harsh and be a little bit more accurate to that edge. And there's something else I want to show you. I should actually Control Z back and show you something here. Now, if I wanted to lighten up that leg, just that leg, I could take the lasso and I could come across just like this. Look at what I'm doing there, just like this. Now, if I hit Control or Command L, it's only affecting what's inside the lasso. It's not affecting the rest of the file. So I want to lighten that up to make my job easier. Do you see how I'm doing it? You see that? See how I lightened up that whole thing and I didn't lose any of the edge fur? Now that made that so much easier to work with. So I hit the B key again, and I can fill this up, and that allowed for a lot easier amount of work. Okay, now I'm going to get close. I'm going to make my brush smaller. I'm going to put my flow around 20. Oops, I made a mistake. It's at 2. I want it to be 20. Now I'm going to right-hand click and make sure I'm all the way pretty much soft. Not all the way soft, like halfway or a third of the way. Now, do you see how I can zoom in and get close to this edge and make that selection really work? And you know, when you look at a picture of something that has hair or fur, the edge of that hair or fur is going to be diffused into the background because that's the nature of hair, right? So you can see what I'm doing all the way around here. I'm leaving that gray there, and I'll use levels to lighten that up just a little bit more. But remember I said you want to let go of your mouse or your electronic pen quite often here so that you don't have to start over if you make a boo-boo. And when are boo-boos made? Well, how's this? All the time. Okay, so you can see how I'm doing a fairly decent job of coming around, and I'm taking my time because, again, I don't want somebody looking at my Photoshop rendering here and thinking, oh gosh, that's a Photoshop rendering, that looks totally fake. So that's not what I want. Why even do it if that's the whole point? And I'm not trying to make a stylized painting. I'm trying to make, well, I don't know if that's not an accurate statement. I'm trying to make a natural looking. And if it ends up looking somewhat stylized, I guess all art has its own style, correct? And you can see that I'm going to save the file now because I don't want to lose what I've done. And you can see that I'm coming around to just fill in. I have my brush at halfway softness, right? And it's at 20% flow. So I'm doing a fairly decent job here of coming close to that. Now I should use levels to really level that off. And remember, I'm letting go of my mouse or my pen every so often so my Control or Command Z doesn't eliminate too much of my good stuff that I'm doing. There. So let me now come around here. You can see I'm being very due diligent. I'm trying to do a good job here. I'm going to hit the X key right now, and I'm going to paint a little black on that outer edge because that was kind of funny. Now I'm going to hit the X key and go back with my white. And I'm close to where I think I need to be. Let me back off now, and let's do this whole leg. So remember that if you take the lasso, look what I'm going to do. I'm going to come across like this, and I'm going to lighten up with the levels command. Okay, Control or Command L. And now let's bring this up, and you can see that I haven't lost the outer fur, but I've made my job a whole lot easier. So I'm going to deselect, hit the B key, and continue with a bigger brush. Let's zoom in, Brian, and bigger brush, Brian. Okay, and now I'm letting go every so often, as I have told you. And now let's go like this, let's come like that. Now let go of your mouse now. Let's go like this, let's go like this, let's let go of your electronic pen now, and let's come in like that. Okay, that's good. That was nice. I like how I did that. Now let's come across like this. Let's get rid of all that. Now those, I'm remembered why we're doing this selection. Let me make the brush real big. This selection is to make a fill for the whole fur. That's why I'm taking the time to do this. I'm taking the time to make this right. Now I am going to duplicate this channel a third time, and I'm going to use levels because I like what I've done. I don't want to ruin what I've done. How do you ruin what you've done? Is by not making extra copies of stuff. So that's why a Photoshop file or a Photoshop piece of artwork can get pretty heavy in memory. So I've done a good job there. Okay, all the way around. I didn't finish this off. So let me make my brush smaller. I should raise the flow a little bit to get this done a little quicker, but I'm doing okay. Okay, there we go, and around here. Okay, that is good enough. All right, one more time to save. Now, I'm going to duplicate this. So here's my third mask copy, which is really the second. Here's the first one, second one, and watch what I do to the third one. So now I'm going to hit Command or Control L again. I'm going to raise the white up. Let me cancel that for a second because I need to see something. That channel somehow moved. I don't know how it moved. I was going too fast. Look at how the channel should be here, and somehow I moved that channel. I don't know how I moved that channel. Well, can I put it back where it's supposed to go? The answer is yes, I can. But let me see if I Control Z back a couple of times. Let me see if I Control Z back a couple of times. Yes, it was only a couple of times, but I want to show you, since I've already brought it up, I must have hit the V key and moved it. But this is what I want to show you. I'm going to duplicate one, and I'm purposefully going to take the V key and move it over. Now, how do you line this one up with this one? Well, you have both of the eyeballs on. Okay, look at this one. You can see it's back here. Look at this one. It's over to this side. Now, if I leave this one selected, do you see how I can pick this up? I'm actually looking at two masks. One that I moved incorrectly. Do you see how I can easily put it back exactly where it needs to go, which is right there? Now I can turn off one of the eyeballs and see, look at, I'm clicking back and forth between both of them. And now they barely move. Whoops, I cut off the ear on that side. But let me now trash that one because this is the good one. So let me duplicate it again. Hey, we make mistakes all the time. It's just how much you want to clean up. It's how many times you learn how to clean up your mistake. So I don't mind this. I probably don't even need to go like this and hit Command L and lighten up the edge a little bit more, but that's okay that I did that. Now, I've got a good amount of fur. So this one here is going to be for my fur fill. That's a selection I'm going to make for my fur fill. Okay, cool. Now, I'm going to go back to the RGB image. I'm going to duplicate the RGB image. I'm now going to take levels on this RGB image. I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me, I am so sorry. I should have paused it, but I didn't. And I'm going to give it better contrast. So before I begin, I want to brighten it up and just darken a little bit of this one. Okay, now, I've done a good job. That's kind of how I want the art to look. But I need that fur to get more contrasted. I can't say that any better. I need the fur to get more contrasted. so that I can gather selections. Right now, there's not enough change between the light and the dark. So I need to duplicate it again. And I'm going to actually call this one my contrast. And that's going to be for the contrast of the fur. Now, don't look at it as this is how I want to paint it, but this is how I'm going to use it to get contrast. So I'm going to take the middle marker here and I'm going to go down like this. Now I'm going to take the white on the right and move it up. Now I'm going to take the middle marker and go a little bit more to this side right here. Now that gave me, I lost this side of the dog, all right, but I gained on the side that's to the right of our eye. Let me show you what I'm talking about. If I go up like this, do you see how I have more contrast on the right hand side? Okay, so let's call this contrast for right. Okay, now I have the contrast for the fur on the right. I'm turning it off. Now I want to take the same duplicated copy and I want to make a contrast for the fur on the left. So look what I'm going to name it. Now I'm going to get rid of the word right and I'm going to put in the word left, even though I have those backwards. This is his right. This is the dog's left, but I'm doing it as you look at it, which isn't the right thing to do. Okay, so now I'm going to hit Command or Control L for this side. Now concentrate on this side. So let's now raise up the dark. Let's now make this go darker right here. Okay, I've almost got it. A little bit more with the dark. Okay, now look at this. I have good contrast on this side of the dog. So let's do this. Here's the contrast for the right side of the dog. Here's the contrast for the left side of the dog. And here's the normal contrast. So one more time. I should just say this is how I want the dog to be painted. Painted reference. There, see? I'll leave that on. One more time. Here it is on the left. Here it is on the right. Now I may be able to use that one for everything, but I don't know. Okay, I just have to see. So let's turn them off. Above layer 0, let's make a folder and call it art. Now I'm going to put a bunch of layers in there. And I'm going to call this bottom one fur fill. And you can stop anytime you want to. You don't have to continue. But now I want to take and put in one more layer below fur fill just for a background. Okay, so I'm going to take like a color that's in this rug here and I'm going to fill the background with it. Okay, so let's just grab this medium value right there. Now I'm going to turn off, I'm going to leave that selected and Option or Alt delete. Okay, perfect. Now let's go to the fur fill. Let's turn on the painted reference. Now what I want to do is grab the bottom lowest value of the dog, okay? Meaning, let me say this right. Not the dark, but I want a middle value. So let me click this value here. Even though around his or her face it changes, I'm probably calling the dog him all the time when it's really a her, or vice versa. So I'm going to try that again. Let me just grab that value right there. Now let's turn off the reference. Let's click over to here for the fur fill. See the channel? I'm going to Command or Control click it. Now do you see that selection? I'm going to hit Option or Alt delete. And now I have the fill of that fur. So you can see it, okay? Let me turn this on and off so you can see that I have the correct color. Now I don't like what I've done in the background. It's kind of distracting. Okay, so I maybe, let me think of what I want to do here. So I'm going to look at that background. Do I want to go lighter or darker? I don't know. So I'm going to click to layer 9. I'm going to try a lighter value. So I'm going to click right there. Okay, and now let's put that in the center. Let's turn this off. Let's click on layer 9, which is the background, option delete. And I think that's going to be okay. Do I want to go darker with it? Maybe I do. I'm just trying to get the best contrast. It's always a game we play. So I'm going to try that one and see if it gives me a good visual contrast so I can do this fur. Let me go one more time, Option or Alt backspace. That may be better for now, okay? Because now I can look at it and see the values that are going to be in that fur. Now let me click on the fur fill, and let me remind you that to make a selection of the fur, you go to the channel, you hold Command or Control, and you click. Now I'm going to hit Command or Control H, and I'm going to make sure I have the right correct value in there. So let's click it right there. And then I'm going to do something in a few minutes that's going to help this, okay? So let me turn off the reference, make sure I'm clicked on that, Option or Alt delete. Okay, that looks good. Now, while the selection is active, I'm going to go to layer 2, okay? Now I'm going to start calling it my lights and darks, but I'm actually going to call this fill. Let me think for a second. That's the fur fill. This is the fill. What is the word I'm trying to find? Let me look at my reference. It is the variation. So fill variation 1. There we go. Whoops, I'm not typing anything. Let's go here and go fill variation _1. There. So, because there are variations in this dog. So let me hit the B key, grab this upper value, and while, let me make a statement here. Let me triple check. Brian, do you have your selection active still? The answer is no. So I have to make a selection of the fur and hit Command or Control H to hide it temporarily. And look at that beautiful fur that's on the outside. Isn't that cool? Now, let me think of what I want to do here. So I'm going to click the eyeball on my painted reference. I could call it my clicky copy. But I'm going to click up here to the ear and hold Option or Alt to sample that color, and I'm going to make sure I'm only painting in 10% on the flow and definitely all the way soft. Did you hear that? Now it's time to get more refined with your paintbrush. Now I'm going to paint up in that fur area here to alter the color of what I've done. So do you see how I'm altering and adding this warmer value up in that area right there? Okay, now I'm going to come to this side and I'm going to alter that color to this side. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to start to alter that color on this side of the dog. And let me turn on this, and I think I'm going to leave it just like that. Okay. Now, what I want to start doing is bringing off the light areas, the white areas, but I'm going to do a little kind of cute thing. I'm going to say detail 1 and copy it. Then I'm going to click this one and say Control V or Command V, delete number 2. So I have detail 2. And I'm going to go here and say Command or Control V, and I'm going to say detail 3. Now, what are those going to be for? Well, I'll show you. Let's go now make 3 new channels. And I need to do this right in front of you. So I'm going to click this on. Good. Click to it, which is the clicky copy. I'm going to make a selection of the fur of the outside of the animal. Okay, now I'm going to zoom in. I want to grab the darks in 3 values. So first I'll go to this gray right there. So I'm going to go to Select Color Range. I'm going to click that gray value right there. See it? I just got it right there, and I'm going to click OK. Now I'm going to save that selection as the same thing that I'm going to paint it, detail 1. Now in detail 1, I would like to save that color, but I should be a better boy and save that color. Let me see where my swatches are. Okay, so I'm going to go down here, and in Brian's folder, I'm actually going to add this color right here. So I'm going to say, if I remember how to do this, they made a change and it's okay, but I believe I want to just add that color, and now I forget. Oh, right there. So now I'm going to name that color Detail 1. And now I have it right there. So it's in my swatch library, which I lost, which is right there. See it? Okay, now let me put that over here somewhere, so it's not in the way of everything. Okay, now be patient with me here. Now watch what we're going to do. I'm going to hit Command or Control H. I'm going to turn off the reference. I'm going to take a big paintbrush, and I'm going to click on Detail 1, taking a big paintbrush. Now watch how I'm going to paint the detail on that dog. Do you see how I'm starting to paint the dog detail right there? Okay, now I need to go to a darker value, so it's going to be Detail 2. How do we do that? We click to the clicky copy to this one. We click to it. We make a selection of the fur, which I've done. I've Control clicked on it. We go to Select, Color Range. I zoom in, and I want to grab the next dark. So let's grab this dark right there. I click OK. Leave your fuzziness in that window around 80 to 90. Now let's go here to select and save selection as Detail 2. And let's save the swatch as Detail 2. So I got to pull this like this. I have to click this and say Detail 2. So I'm being very loyal to the whole process, correct? Now let's go down like this so you can see it getting painted. Command or Control H, turn off the clicky copy, Brian. Click to Detail 2, and now let's paint Detail 2 in there. I just don't want to do the fur until you see what I can do here, all right? Now let's go to Detail 3. Let me see if I can click any more in there. Nope, that's perfect. Okay, now let's go to Detail 3. It's going to be the very, very dark, okay? So one more time, turn on the detail, the clicky copy, click to it, make a selection of your overall animal, go to Select Color Range. Let's go in there and grab the dark right there. Okay, now let's click OK. Let's save that selection as Detail 3. That's not how you spell detail, Brian. That's how you spell detail. Now I'm just going to come across this and copy it because I'm tired of typing. And let's go to here and click. And now let's go to Detail 3. There, I've got it in there. Now let's hit Command or Control H. Let's click to the Detail 3 layer. Let's turn off this. And now you can see what I'm doing here, and I'm painting Detail 3, and you can see how well I'm actually getting the values that I want for my illustration. Now, if there's any highlights, let's go to Detail 4, and let's go underscore highlight. And instead of trying to type that twice, I'm just going to copy it. So Control or Command C. Now, turn this on, click to it, Control click. Okay, cool. I was checking if I was selected on the clicky copy or what I named as painted reference. Let's zoom in and let's grab the light values. Okay, so now I got the light values in there. Now the neat part about that is I've got the light values in the fur too. So I'm going to click, and we're going to go to Select, Save Selection, Control V. We're going to go to Color, click, Control V, hit, and now in Detail 4, which I totally correctly clicked on, let's now hit Control H or Command H. Let me zoom in and show you that we're going to start bringing off the fur. Okay, so you can see here how I've got the fur started right over here. So now I am getting my little puppy dog exactly where I want. And it's not as if I couldn't have drawn everything that you're looking at. I could have, but how long would that have taken you? How incredibly long would that have taken you? I don't know. So let's go to layer 7. What am I going to name this? Let's call it Fur Dark 1. Okay, I just want to see what I can get. Click to your painted reference. Make a selection of that guy. Enter color range. Go close. Whoops. Zoom in. And now let's get... I have to cancel. I have to cancel. Sorry. I forgot, and I am apologizing. I forgot that I made a contrasted fur shape. Now, do you see the contrasted fur shape, which allows me to grab that beautiful value that's in there for my dark value? Okay, that's important because I don't want to click on this one. I want to click on this one. Now let's make a selection of him again, or her. Enter color range. I'm not going to use that color totally, but I am going to click it. Now, that means that I'm allowed to, that's going to make a selection. Believe it or not, it did make that selection. Now I'm going to click on Fur Dark 1. I'm not entirely happy with that value that I chose, so I'm going to choose a deeper value in the dog, right there. That was too dark. Let me go to right there. I'm looking at this foreground color. I don't want too dark a value, but I want a medium dark value. Let me see if I can go a little bit darker than that. There, I like that. Now, Command or Control H, and if you don't like this layer, guess what? Just throw it away. Let me turn off that. Let's go up here now and let's start painting that dark value. Now I'm going to have to, in order to see that dark value, I'm going to have to do the highlights on the hair up there, on the fur. So let me take layer 8 and hit the light fur. Just so you can see that I actually did do something. Let's click to the one that we want to grab the light fur from. Let's click to it. Let's Control or Command click to turn the whole thing into a selection. Let's go to color range. Let's get close and grab that white again, right up here. A little bit brighter. Okay, good. Now, I almost don't even need to. It's so easy to paint that selection that I don't need to save it. Okay, maybe I will just save the selections. I'll just call it light fur. But I'm not going to save the color because I could always get the color. So what do I do here? I turn this off. I hit Control or Command H. I click to the light fur layer so that my paint goes on the light fur layer. And do you guys see? Let me Control Z back and show you what I'm talking about. Remember, I'm only painting at 10%. Do you see how I'm bringing off all that beautiful fur color that's in there? Do you see how that fur color is pretty much everywhere in that little guy? So I am doing a fairly decent job. Here's the dog. Here's my value. Now, I like what I'm doing so far. I do need to get this warm value around the dog's face. So I could put in a couple more layers and keep on going. I mean, I need to keep on going to do all the little parts of the dog. Okay, if I turn this off, you can see that I don't have all the highlights and everything that I need, but let's just start and put in warm face 1. Okay, so this is cool. Now I click to this one here because I like the warm value that's in there. I Control click the fur as always. Now let's go into color range. And let's grab that selection. Remember, we're using color range as a selection. Let's do 2 values. Let's do this light and dark value. Okay, so let me grab the light value. That's why I called it face 1. Let me hit Command or Control H, turn it off, click to warm face, and let's paint the warm value on the little guy's face or the girl's face or whatever. Now I may I may want to Gaussian blur that. Okay, but let me go double click this, make a new layer. I don't think I put anything on layer 10. I think layer 10 was my new layer. So let's go to here, Control V, put in a number 2. Let's now turn this on, click to it, do the same thing again. Let's make a selection. Am I clicked on the right layer? Yes. Let's go to color range. Let's zoom in and grab the darker value. So let me go over here and grab this dark value. Okay, and let's click OK. Now, let's hold Control or Command H to temporarily hide the selection. Click on the layer you want to paint on. And now let's put in the darker value on the little guy's, girl's face, whatever face. Now I should go in, as I told you, I should go in and Gaussian blur these layers, but I'm okay. Let's now look and see the next value that I want to get. I need more darks around the ears, but it sure is coming off real pretty, isn't it? Let's make sure that I've done a decent job around that side. Okay, I missed the light fur here, so I'm going to click back to the light fur. You see how I'm doing that? But before I do that, I want to go grab the light fur again. Maybe I'm going to use the light fur from the regular picture. So let's go here, Command or Control click, color range. So it's just you can go as far as you want with this. So let's go here and grab that selection. You already know it's a light value, right? So I'll even make it a little bit light. Oh, it's already super light. Okay, Command or Control H, turn off your clicky copy. I'm going to click to the light fur layer, and then I'm going to pump in the light fur on this side right here. Now I need to go to a darker fur. Let me turn that off. Let me put that underneath here. No, I want that above. But I am going to put one more layer here, and I'm going to say dark fur 2, if I don't have a dark fur 2. So I'm going to just keep on going, and then I'll stop in a few minutes. But this is the technique that I would use before I grabbed my electronic pen and I made my fine-tuned hairs, which I'll show you on the young lady that I did before I leave this file. Now I want to turn on the contrasted version, and I want this selection of this dark right there. So I click to it. Select color range, grab that value right here. I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to make it slightly darker. Good. Command or Control H, click to that dark fur 2 layer, turn off my clicky copies, go in here, and you can see that I'm actually now bringing off that value. So now that's looking semi-good. I'm not happy with that yet, not at all. I might need to put that underneath the light fur. Not happy with that at all yet. I'm going to try one more time to leave that value right where it is, and I'm going to put in even lighter fur. I don't know why I'm having a problem with that, but that's the way Photoshop goes. So let's turn on this one. I should be able to get that. So let's Control click it. I am stubborn, I have to tell you. Let's go to, first I have to click it up here. Maybe that's what I didn't do last time, and maybe you were all yelling at me for that. So let's grab that right there. Okay, a little bit less on the fuzziness of it. What does that do? It constrains it to that value, is kind of what I want to tell you. Command H or Control H, turn it off. Brian, click to your lighter fur layer, and there it goes. There it is. That's beautiful. Okay, that took how many times to do that? Took a few times. Okay, so that is how I would paint this animal, okay, in gathering the lights and mediums and the darks, Okay, there's plenty more that I want to do. I want to bring out more detail in the nose. I want to bring out more detail in the fur. I want to, of course, bring out more detail in the background. Okay, but you can see just how natural that fur looks over here. Looks natural here. You could never do that. Never do that with a pen. Meaning drawing it with a pen and making paths. So you can see in this case, how many paths do I have? I don't have any. I used a channel for my selection. And I kept on using the channels. You see how I have the channels here and here and here? Those are all the channels that I use to get my selections from. But of course, I'm going to click up to the RGB image so you can see that image. Now I'm going to pause it for a second, and I'm going to go open a file. Okay, this is an illustration I did of this young lady. Here is the actual reference. Here's my illustration of what I did with her. Now, I have her hair broken into above hair and the hair that's underneath. In fact, I probably have 3 hair layers. But let me turn off the above hair, and would you please watch, let me zoom in, would you please watch all the sweet little hairs disappear? Those are the above hairs that were done with a tablet. Okay, now I did all of these hairs here, both with an electronic pen and with just a regular mouse and paths. Okay, so that hair is all here. Now you can see here that that hair really, there isn't a lot of hair there. I gave it the underpainting that I gave that animal, the dog. Now I'm going to turn off everything in this file but the hair. Okay, so let me just go all the way down and turn off everything, including the tree, wherever that is. So here's the background. Now let me go turn on the hair. So here is, I have to find my hair. So here is, it's not on face fill, correct, Brian? No. It is on under hair. So there's the under hair. That's the same kind of thing that I did when I painted this part of the dog. So you can see here, if I turn off all this, there's the under hair right there. So you can see that that is the hair. Oops, I need to turn that off. And I have the warm values need to turn off too. So there was more. There's my under hair. There's how I altered the under hair. And there's the first fill layer on this part of it. Now let me go back to her. So here is the under hair. Here is the regular hair. Now if I turn off the under hair, can you see there's tons of holes in there? Those are just strokes. But if those didn't have the under hair, there would be nothing there for it to contrast. So meaning there would be no foundation for it. So look at how I have that hair combined with this to give it the body, with the above hair on a whole separate layer as the highest layer right there. All 3 of those are the thing that gives this thing, this whole illustration, its look. So you can see here how I've given everything there is now pretty much finished. Okay, but I took my time. So there are times like for this right here, see that? I used paths for that. So if I go way down on the path here, I bet you I can find almost way down to the bottom face hair 4. Let me find it. Okay, there we go. Hair 2. Let me zoom out because it's going to be hard for me to find it on the file. But here is hair 3. Here is hair 4. Okay, I'm looking at it. Let me now figure out. Okay, there's so many. Okay, bangs. There's a perfect thing for a bang. Do you see how I drew? Let me zoom in. I drew one line accurately. Now for the above hair on this animal, do you see how I can draw? And let me show you right over here. Look at how I can take one path like this, just a single path. Sorry, I've got to That's the error that Photoshop has. I've got to do a work path. So let me go make a work path. Let me click away from this and start drawing, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Now, do you see that line? If I'm in the pen tool and I hold Control Alt or Command Option, do you see how I can make two of them on either side? Now, let me zoom in just so I can get it to be where I can't move it now. Why can't I move this? Okay, let me zoom out, let me zoom in. All right, for some reason it won't let me get any closer to that. I don't know why. Maybe it's just the big file. I can click both of these with the Shift key and move this down just so I can get something that I want to show you. So I'm going to zoom in now. Now, if maybe it's because I didn't hit the F key. No. Don't know why Photoshop is being stupid right now. That's okay. But let me get as close. Now, to join these together, if you hold Alt or Option, you click and close. That's joined. If I go to the other side, I hold Alt or Option, I click, and I close. Now, do you see if I place this over her bangs? Let's just go down. Let me grab both of these right here and make it longer. Okay, now, if I were to marquee that, and I were to move this over here, do you see how if I wanted to, I could paint a little hair right here? Then in 2 seconds, when I am on the same layer, do you see how I can just move this over and paint some more? So if that gets turned into a selection, and I know this is a ridiculous thing to go over right now, but it's not really. If I turn that into a selection, do you see how I can paint? If I add a little thing here to her face and I hit Command H, do you see how I can hit the B key, grab this light value, and paint? Now let me make that smaller. Okay. Do you see how I can paint that hair? Let me even make it brighter. Just want to show you how easy it is to do this. Now, watch how I can take the M key, grab the edge of this, and move it. See how cool that is? That's the marquee tool. Now, all I have to do is hit the B key and paint again. Now watch how the M key will allow me to grab the edge of it. Isn't this cool? Turn it. And what if I wanted to take it and actually turn that? I'll hit Command or Control H to show you the selection. Now, watch this. Select, Transform Selection, turn it slightly, Mr. Sorial. Okay, hit the Return key, hit Command or Control H, take your paintbrush, and look at how I can make another one go right on top of it. Now, do you see how pretty that is? Well, multiply that times about 500. That's how I painted all these beautiful hairs, which I'm going to now turn off. Do you see how the above hair is now off? Okay, that means I used a path. Do you see my work path? Do you see that path right there? I only drew 1/2 of it, right? So again, since it's a work path, let me deselect and hit the pen tool. What if you took this curvy one, like this? Hold Control Alt or Command Option and duplicate it. Hold the Alt key and click and close. And if you're on a Mac, I don't know why that's doing that. That's so weird. Okay, and hold Alt or Option and click and close. Now you have a curved hair. Now if you put that where you need to put it over where you want to put it, you can actually now start painting curved hairs on top. If you wanted to transform that, do you see how easy it would be to transform it to any direction that you want? And now we can get some hairs that are looking real pretty off of her face. So I could Command or Control click that, right? Hit Command or Control H, click to that layer 88, Brian, move in with your paintbrush, and do you see how I could paint that hair right there? Now that is cool. That's how it's done. And that's how I did the whole above hair part of this. So I'll turn it on. Now let's go back to this little guy. So if I now turn on everything once I'm happy with my illustration, remember I haven't done a good background yet, and I wanted to get little fur going over the face. Well, let's look. You see the little fur that's on his face? You see that right there? What if I took a pen and I made one little fur thing like this? That right there. I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to hold Command, Option, or Control, Alt, and I'm going to put it on the other side. I'm now going to hold the Alt key or the Option key, and I'm going to click, and I'm going to close. Now I'm going to go up here, and I'm going to click, and I'm going to close. Now I'm going to make a selection of that. Now I have a selection which I'm going to Command or Control H. I would make a layer way above everything and call it what? Above fur or above hair. Now I'm going to grab a light value, right, a lighter value, turn off my reference, make sure I'm on this layer here, and now watch. I can go in here and you see how I can get that fur to do a really beautiful thing there. Now if I hit the M key, do you see how I can grab this and move it just like I'm doing? I can actually go to Select and Transform Selection and turn it slightly. Hit the Return key, hit Command or Control H to see where it is, right? Look at how cool that is. Hit Command H to hide it, take your B key, and on the same layer, give it another little over fur. Now that's what gives it the amazing quality. The amazing quality. So you would have to take your time. I'm meaning this. I'm going to hit Command D to deselect and hit the P key. Well, let's turn on the reference. Let's do one more that goes all the way down the cheek here. So let's go all the way down to here. Now that's a nice crisp piece of geometry. Let's hold Command or Control and make it bigger. Or, I'm sorry, make the other side. Let's zoom in and hold the Alt key or the Option key and close. Let's go down here and do the same thing. Click and close. You have to hold the Alt or Option key. Now, let me go in here and Command click it or Control click it. Let's hit Command or Control H. Let's go grab a lighter value. I'm going to click another layer. I'm going to grab this value right there and I'm going to make it even brighter. Like this. Now I'm going to turn off the reference. Now watch how I can make that come beautiful right there. Now if I want to, I can hit Command or Control H, select Transform Selection, move it up, turn it slightly. Look at how cool. Hit the Return key, hit Command or Control H, and put in another one. Now when I back off, do you see how amazing that looks? That's how these hairs are done. So you can do both of what I've done. And that is how you take your time. Now I've only taken an hour or so to do this, or 2 hours, but I wanted you to see just how amazing that this process can be. Okay? And remember, if you want the little blues that are in the eye right here, you're going to have to go grab those values with color range and then make a layer and paint it. It's that fun and it's that simple, okay? But it is a mixture of different things, okay? And remember with the R key, if you're using an electronic pen and you want to taper a value, what I should do is put it on pause, go get my electronic pen and show you how to taper fur, okay? So hold on. Okay, I tried to plug in my Wacom tablet, which worked at the last operating system, and because I've upgraded to Big Sur, I have to get a new Wacom tablet, which will come soon. But the Wacom tablet I have in my face movies that are in my YouTube channel. You can watch me paint and watch how I can taper the brush and paint, especially in movie 21 and 22 of the face in the advanced Photoshop movies. I'll show you in here. If I go to my YouTube and I go to my channel and I click on my playlist, here is Advanced Photoshop on this side. I'll stop the first one that's going to play, and I'll go down here and I'll show you that I have in all of these face movies, especially, look at this, numbered 19, 20, 21, and 22, doing the fine layers here of hair. I show how to do it with a Wacom tablet. So at least we can get that done. And I apologize for not being able to do it on this because I need a new driver and it won't let me install it in Big Sur. So I need to buy a new Wacom tablet. But I think this has helped. And if you have any questions, just email me or let me know on my YouTube channel. Thank you.